Richard Morales dragged the suitcase so hard across the grass that one of the wheels snapped off. "Put her stuff outside," he shouted. Paper plates stopped halfway to people's mouths. Conversations died instantly. Lena stood frozen near the patio in her blue graduation gown, tassel still hanging beside her cheek, while her mother stormed out of the house carrying armfuls of clothes. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Denise hurled them onto the lawn like trash. "You want to embarrass this family," Richard barked at Lena, "then you don't live here anymore." "What did I even do?" Lena asked, voice cracking. "Can somebody please tell me what's happening?" "You know exactly what you did," Denise snapped. But Lena didn't. An hour earlier, her parents had been smiling for photos beside the cake. Her dad had wrapped an arm around her shoulders, while relatives clapped for the future college girl of the family. Now neighbors were watching from across the street, while her framed childhood photos slid across the driveway. Lena noticed something strange beneath her parents' anger. Her father kept checking his phone every few seconds. Her mother kept asking, "Did the mail come yet?" Over and over. Like they were waiting for something. Or terrified of it. Aunt Teresa stepped forward carefully. "Richard, maybe everybody should calm down." "You stay out of this," Richard snapped. "You don't know what she's done." Lena stared at the front door. The new silver lock gleamed under the porch light. "New lock?" Her stomach dropped. "You changed the locks," she whispered. Neither parent answered. That was when she realized this wasn't impulsive. Her room had already been emptied before the party even started. Denise dragged out another garbage bag and ripped it open across the lawn. School notebooks, shoes, hoodies, everything spilled into the grass while relatives avoided eye contact. Then one folded envelope slipped from the suitcase. Stamped from a law office. Addressed to Lena Morales. She bent to grab it, but Richard lunged forward first and snatched it out of her hands so fast the paper crumpled. "Dad, what is that?" "Nothing you need to worry about." His voice came too quickly. Too sharp. Guests started quietly leaving through the side gate. Nobody wanted to get involved anymore. Lena's little brother Mateo stood near the porch clutching a soda cup with both hands. He looked terrified. As Lena loaded the remaining bags into her friend Jasmine's car, Mateo hurried close enough to whisper, "Dad said you almost ruined everything." Then he backed away before Richard noticed. Jasmine shut the trunk carefully. "Lena, come on." Lena climbed into the passenger seat, still wearing her graduation gown. Through the windshield, she watched her parents packing near the patio, arguing in low voices. As the car pulled away, she looked back one last time. Her father stood beside a metal burn barrel in the backyard, feeding papers into the fire. And whatever was written inside, that law office envelope, had scared him enough to destroy evidence in the middle of his own daughter's graduation party. 2 weeks later, Lena was sleeping on a thin air mattress in Jasmine's living room, beside a stack of diner uniforms and community college forms. At night, she kept replaying the graduation party in her head. The broken suitcase wheel. The new lock on the door. Her father burning papers behind the house. None of it made sense. "You can stay here as long as you need," Jasmine said one morning while pouring cereal into a bowl. "But you need answers, Lena." "I know. You gonna call them?" Lena hesitated before nodding. Denise answered on the third ring. "What?" her mother said flatly. Lena swallowed. "Mom, can you just tell me what I did?" A long silence. Then Denise sighed dramatically. "You forced this on us." "How?" "You've become selfish, ungrateful. Your father sacrificed everything for you, including throwing me out on the lawn." In the background, muffled shouting erupted. Lena recognized her father's voice immediately. "You said the signatures matched." "Keep your voice down." Then the line crackled. "What signatures?" Lena asked. Denise instantly lowered her voice. "Nothing. Stop digging into things that don't concern you." The call disconnected. Lena stared at her phone. That afternoon, she opened her banking app while waiting for a shift at the diner. Her chest tightened instantly. Her credit score had collapsed. 3 unfamiliar accounts appeared under her name. "What the hell?" she whispered. She suddenly remembered all the paperwork her father had pushed at her during senior year. Insurance forms, business authorization, tax documents. Every time she questioned it, Richard would wave her off. "Just sign where I highlighted." Lena texted him immediately. "Why are there accounts under my name?" The reply came less than 30 seconds later. "Drop this before you destroy this family." Jasmine looked over from the couch. "Okay, that's not normal." "No kidding. You need your full credit report, tonight." They spent 2 hours going through documents online. The deeper Lena looked, the colder she felt. Business loans, lines of credit, debt connected directly to Richard Morale's construction, all tied to her social security number. "No," Lena whispered, "there has to be some mistake." But even as she said it, she already knew there was. Near midnight, her phone buzzed again. Matteo. His voice trembled so badly she could barely understand him. "Some men came to the house asking Dad questions," he whispered. "Mom started crying after they left." "Matteo, listen to me carefully. Did Dad ever make you sign anything?" "I don't know." A door slammed somewhere behind him. Then Matteo lowered his voice even further. "Mom said if you talk, we lose the house." Lena sat upright on the air mattress. Her breathing slowed. Because for the first time, the graduation night stopped feeling random and started feeling planned. Matteo's voice cracked through the phone one last time. "Lena, what exactly did Dad make you sign?" Lena found out how bad things really were 3 days later, when a student apartment complex rejected her application. "We're sorry," the leasing manager said awkwardly across the desk. "Your financial background disqualified you." "My what?" "You should probably contact your bank." An hour later, Lena sat inside a small office at First County Bank, while a manager named Mr. Feldman quietly closed the blinds. The moment he opened her file, his expression changed. "How old are you, Lena?" 18. "And you've never owned part of a construction company?" "No." He slowly turned the monitor toward her. 5 separate business credit lines appeared under her name. Some balances were already overdue. Lena's stomach dropped lower with every number she read. "These signatures," she whispered, "I didn't sign these." Mr. Feldman leaned back carefully. "Some of them were filed after your 18th birthday." "That's impossible." He clicked through another set of records, then suddenly stopped talking altogether. "What?" Lena asked. The manager hesitated. Large transfers were moved from the business accounts into personal accounts, belonging to Richard and Denise Morales, shortly before these loans defaulted. "Before graduation?" "Yes." The room went silent. Lena suddenly understood why her parents had panicked during the party. The bank had already started looking into them, and they had needed someone else to blame. By the next week, collection agencies started calling the diner non-stop. "Tell Lena Morales she can't hide from debt." Co-workers began glancing at her differently. One waitress muttered, "I heard her family owns some shady company." Then Jasmine stormed into the apartment one evening holding her phone. "You need to see this." Richard and Denise had been posting online for relatives to see. "Pray for our family during this hard time. Some kids destroy everything their parents built." Another post claimed Lena had stolen money from the business. Her aunt stopped answering calls. Cousins unfollowed her. Even people from graduation started whispering when she walked into stores. "This is insane," Lena said quietly. "No," Jasmine replied. "This is them building a story before the truth comes out." The next morning, Lena met with a legal aid attorney named Carla Nguyen. She reviewed the paperwork for less than 10 minutes before looking up sharply. This has all the markers of identity fraud. Lena's chest tightened. If I report them, she said slowly, my little brother loses everything. Carla folded her hands together. If you don't report this, investigators may believe you participated willingly. That sentence changed everything. An hour later, Lena handed over copies of every suspicious document she had. When she exited the legal office, a black pickup truck sat across the street. Richard Morales was behind the wheel, watching her. He rolled the window down. You have no idea what you just started, he said. Then headlights turned onto the block behind him. 2 dark government SUVs. Richard's expression changed instantly. And before the vehicles even stopped moving, he slammed the truck into gear and sped away down the street. 2 months after graduation, Lena received an official letter confirming federal and county investigators had opened a fraud case connected to Richard Morales' construction. She read the notice twice in the diner break room while her hands shook. Then her manager stepped inside holding another envelope. Lena, these came for you again. Wage garnishment warnings. Debt collection notices. Her temporary bank freeze during the investigation had already delayed her paychecks, and now customers were overhearing phone calls about unpaid loans tied to her name. One regular customer glanced over as a collector loudly said through the phone, "You are legally responsible for this balance, Ms. Morales." Lena hung up immediately. The humiliation followed her everywhere now. 3 days later, Carla spread fresh documents across her office desk. "We found older filings," she said. "How old?" "Almost a year." Lena stared at forged signatures carrying her name. Some were notarized. Carla tapped one page. "One of the witnesses is a notary connected to your father." Another piece finally clicked into place. "The envelope," Lena whispered. "What envelope?" "At graduation, there was a law office letter addressed to me. Dad grabbed it before I could open it." Carla's expression hardened. Then investigators were probably already contacting people connected to the accounts. Lena leaned back slowly. Her parents hadn't thrown her out because they were angry. They had thrown her out because they were running out of time. That night, Matteo secretly texted her photos from the garage. Boxes stacked near the back wall. Plastic bins labeled with business account numbers. Another photo showed Richard loading them into a trailer after midnight. "He says we are cleaning," Matteo texted, "but Mom keeps crying." The next afternoon, investigators called Lena directly. "We may execute warrants soon," one agent told her. "Stay available." Every step forward made her feel worse about Matteo being trapped inside that house. Then Denise called unexpectedly that evening. Her voice sounded strangely cheerful. "We should have dinner tonight," she said. Lena nearly laughed. "You threw me out." "We all said things we regret." "No, Mom, you dumped my life onto the lawn." A pause. Then Denise lowered her voice. "If you don't come tonight, this family is finished." Jasmine immediately shook her head after the call ended. "That sounds like a setup." "I know." "Then don't go." But 2 hours later, Lena still drove there. The house looked almost identical to graduation night, except the yard felt dead quiet now. Inside, dinner sat untouched on expensive plates. Richard barely looked at her. Every few seconds, headlights passing outside made him tense up. Denise forced nervous smiles the entire meal. "So," she said weakly, "maybe we can move forward from all this." Nobody touched their food. Then, bang, bangs, banged. A hard knock rattled the front door. Every person at the table froze. Richard's face drained of color. Denise slowly stood and walked toward the entrance. When she opened the door, her hand began trembling immediately. "Wait," she whispered, "you'll hear about what she did." A sheriff stepped inside beside 2 investigators. "No, ma'am," he said evenly. "We're here about what you did." The sheriff handed Denise a folded warrant, while 2 investigators entered the house behind him. Richard stood so fast his chair slammed backward across the floor. "What is this?" he snapped. "Search and seizure authorization," the sheriff replied calmly. "Richard Morales, Denise Morales, both of you need to remain seated." Mateo looked back and forth between his parents and the officers, completely frozen. Denise immediately pointed toward Lena. "She lied to you," Denise blurted out. "She's the one who ruined everything." One investigator opened a folder. "Actually, the evidence says otherwise." Richard's jaw tightened. For months, Lena had wondered what could make parents humiliate their own daughter publicly at her graduation party. Now the answer finally sat in front of everyone. Richard's construction business had been collapsing for over a year. Missed payments, failed contracts, mounting debt. Instead of filing bankruptcy, Richard and Denise opened business credit lines using Lena's identity after she turned 18. Loan applications carried forged signatures tied to her social security number. Investigators had already traced money transfers from failing business accounts directly into Richard and Denise's personal accounts. "We did what we had to do," Denise said shakily. "We were trying to save this family." "By framing your daughter?" the sheriff asked. Nobody answered. Another investigator walked toward Richard's office while speaking into a recorder. "We also recovered evidence of document destruction." Lena immediately pictured the burn barrel behind the house on graduation night. The law office envelope finally made sense too. Investigators had mailed notices connected to the fraudulent accounts days before graduation. Lena accidentally seeing one had nearly exposed everything before Richard and Denise finished moving money and hiding records. So they panicked. They emptied her room before the party, changed the locks, publicly threw her out. If anyone later accused them of fraud, they already had a story prepared. Their unstable, ungrateful daughter stole from the family business. Mateo suddenly burst into tears. "You said she was hurting us," he shouted at his parents. Denise reached toward him desperately. "Baby, we did this for you too." "For me," Mateo cried. "You threw her away." Richard finally exploded. "This never would have happened if you hadn't involved Lena directly," he shouted at Denise. She stared at him in disbelief. "You told me to." The investigators kept searching. Inside the garage, they found hidden financial records packed into storage bins. Burned paper remnants matched loan documents. Bank transfers led directly into Denise's private accounts. Within an hour, both parents were escorted outside, while neighbors watched from their porches exactly like they had during graduation night. Only this time, nobody was staring at Lena. They were staring at Richard and Denise. Her Aunt Teresa arrived midway through the investigation after hearing police radios nearby. The moment she saw Lena standing alone near the driveway, guilt washed across her face. "I should have defended you," she said quietly. "I knew something felt wrong that night." Lena didn't answer immediately, because part of her still couldn't believe this was real. Over the next several weeks, everything collapsed for Richard and Denise. Richard lost his contractor license. The family home was seized as part of the investigation. Fraud and identity theft charges followed both of them. Relatives who had ignored Lena's calls suddenly wanted explanations after learning the truth. Some apologized. Others avoided her completely out of embarrassment. Carla eventually called with the news Lena had been waiting for. "The forged signatures were verified," she said. "You're officially cleared." The debts tied to her name were removed. Frozen accounts reopened. Restitution from remaining business assets helped her finally put money toward school and housing. But the biggest change came when Lena stopped trying to earn approval from people willing to sacrifice her to protect themselves. She and Jasmine rented a small apartment together near campus. It wasn't fancy. The kitchen cabinets barely closed properly, and the living room carpet smelled faintly like old coffee no matter how much they cleaned. But it was hers. Months later, Lena unpacked the last storage box in her bedroom. At the bottom sat her graduation photo, the same one Denise had thrown across the lawn. Lena placed it carefully on a shelf beside her desk. No yelling, no accusations, no fear that someone would rip it away from her again. Her phone buzzed once with a final message from Richard before his court hearing. "You destroyed this family." Lena stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back. "No, I just stopped letting you use me to save yourselves." She blocked the number after sending it. Then she stepped back and looked around her apartment, the first place she had ever truly felt safe. The last thing her parents ever gave her was the push that forced her to build a life they could no longer control.